Okay, so this is section 6-3, volume and surface area. And our objective here is to apply concepts of surface area and volume to geometric figures. Volume of a three-dimensional object is the amount of space occupied or consumed by that object, and it is measured in terms of cubic units. We start with the volume of a rectangular prism. So we have here the properties and definition. So a rectangular solid is a three-dimensional figure that has six faces, all of which are rectangles. We denote the longer side of the base as the length and the shorter side as the width, and the height is h. Here's our formula. Volume equals length times width times height. And in this example, we're asked to find the volume of the prism. So we're going to say volume is equal to 12 times 7 times 5. 12 times 7 times 5. We get 420. And the label is inches. And we need to put a cubic up there. So 420 cubic inches is the volume of this rectangular prism. Next is the volume of a cube. A cube is a rectangular solid that is made of six congruent squares. The side length is denoted with an S, and that simplifies our volume formula. Instead of length times width times height, it is S times S times S, or more simply put, S cubed. So when we find the volume of this cube, it is volume equals 6 to the third power. 6 to the third power gives us 216. Our label is centimeters and cubed because we're talking about volume. Next, we have the volume of a sphere. A sphere is a set of all points in a three-dimensional space that are a certain distance from a fixed point called the center, and the radius is denoted by r. The formula is volume is equal to 4/3 pi r cubed. And we can find the volume of the sphere. Its volume equals 4/3 pi times 11 cubed. 11 cubed gives us 1,331. So now we have volume equals 4/3 pi times 1,331. And if we multiply that by 4/3 times 4 divided by 3, we get 1774.6 repeated. So volume is 1774.6 repeated times pi. We still have to multiply the pi in there, so times pi, and we get 5575.28. And this label is meters. So both of these answers are correct. The top answer is in terms of pi. And the bottom answer is the decimal result. In terms of pi means that pi is still in your answer, has not been multiplied into the number. Find the volume of the cylinder. So here we have the diagram showing the parts of the cylinder. We have the radius and the height. A right cylinder is a cylinder where the bases are circles with a radius r and are perpendicular to the height of the cylinder, h. Here's our formula for volume of a cylinder, pi r squared h. So volume is pi times the radius squared times the height. Volume is pi times 625 times 13. So that gives us 8125. So volume is 8,125 pi feet cubed. So this is the answer in terms of pi. We didn't multiply it in yet. And if we multiply pi into it, we get 25,525.4. So once again, this is in terms of pi. And this answer is the decimal result. Next, we have the volume of a cone. A right circular cone is a figure with a circular base with the radius r tapering up to a point, and the height is denoted by h. So once again, this is our radius, this is our height, and the formula for a cone is 1/3 pi r squared times h. So volume is equal to 1/3 times pi times the radius squared times h. So that gives us volume is 1/3 times pi times 16 times 11. So volume is 176/3 times pi, and this is inches cubed. So 11 times 16 was 176. We just multiplied the 1/3 into that to give us this fraction. And then we attach the pi to it. And now we'll multiply it by pi. And we get 184.3 as the decimal result. And that's inches cubed. So always work it out both ways. Sometimes you're asked to answer in terms of pi. Sometimes you're asked to answer rounded to a specific decimal point. Our final shape here is the volume of a pyramid. So here we have that a square pyramid is a figure with a square base, and the sides are four triangles that taper up to a point. The height is denoted by an h, and the formula is 1/3 s squared is side times side, which gives you the area of the square base. Area of square base. And the h is the height of the pyramid. So volume equals 1/3. Now in this one, we have to do a little work. This 18 is not the side, it's from the middle to the side. That means the length of the whole side here is actually 18 plus another 18, so it's 36. 36 squared times the height, which is 22. 36 raised to the second gives us 1296. So we have volume equals 1/3 1296 times 22. And that gives us 9,504 millimeters cubed. So just to recap, in this one, they gave us the distance from the center to the side. That's half the length of the side of the square. So there was an extra step in solving this problem. We had to find one of the dimensions. So here we begin surface area. The surface area of a three-dimensional object is the area required to cover the outside surfaces of the object and is measured in square units. Square units because, again, we are dealing with area, not volume. the surface area of a rectangular solid with length L and width W and height H can be computed using this formula. So they're doing 2 times length times width plus 2 times length times height plus 2 times width times height. And if we were to look at this here, this face here, if this was length equals 5 and height equals 2, we can say that 2 is here. So 2 times 5 would give us 10 for this face. And we have this front face here, but we also have one in the back that is exactly like it. So that's why we have those 2's. And then if I were to erase this out, if we were to take the width times the height, and then there's another one here that matches it, width times the height, that's 2 of those. And then we have 2 more that match length times width and length times width. There's 2 of those. So that's why we have this formula where we have 2 times length times width plus 2 times length times height plus 2 times the width times height. Now, you can use this formula or you don't have to use the formula. Either way is fine. You could just do all 6 of the faces one at a time. You can say, well, this first face is 2 times 5. And then I have to add to that this face that matches it, 2 times 5. And then we'll do 2 times 3 plus 2 times 3 for the second one. And then we say, great, now we just have to do the top and bottom. So this is 3 times 5. And then there's another one up here, which is the same, 3 times 5. So it's the same thing as doing it with the 2 or without the 2. However, you're more comfortable keeping track of all of the faces. You're finding the area of each one and then adding them all up. So this gives us surface area is equal to, so this is 10, this is 10. So 10 plus 10 plus this 2 times 3 is 6 plus 6. And then 3 times 5 is 15 and 15. So this is 20 plus 12 is 32 plus 30 is 62. And that is feet squared because we're talking about area. So you just need to organize your work in your own way so you're keeping track of each of the surfaces. So just to go through this again, we're going to find volume. Volume is length times width times height, which is 3 times 5 times 2, which is 30 feet cubed because it's volume. And then there is surface area. Surface area is 2 times 3 times 5 plus 2 times 3 times 2 plus 2 times 2 times 5. So surface area is 2 times 15 plus 2 times 6 plus 2 times 10. Surface area is 30 plus 12 is 42 plus 20 is 62 feet squared. So that's the surface area. And this is the volume up here. Surface area of a cube. So each face is a square, and the area of a square is side times side. So one face is equal to 32 times 32. All right, 32 times 32 is 1024. So that's one face, but the cube has 6 faces. So 6 times 1024 is 6,144. The label is centimeters squared because we're talking about surface area. And if we wanted volume, that would be 32 cubed, which would be 32,768. And that would be centimeters cubed. So surface area is 6,144 centimeters squared. Volume is 32,768 centimeters cubed. So we're just comparing and contrasting the two formulas and the labels. Surface area of a sphere is 4 times pi r squared. So surface area is 4 times pi times the radius squared. 11 squared is 121. Surface area 121 times 4 gives us 484. Pi meters squared. So this is again in terms of pi. And we solved this problem earlier for volume. Volume is 4/3 pi r cubed, which would give us 4/3 pi times 11 cubed. 11 raised to the third times 4 divided by 3. Volume was 1774.67 pi meters cubed. And as we compare and contrast this, I always look at the volume formula being 4/3, and the 3 shows up, and there's a 3 in the exponent. So that's just my way to use a memory trick. So I always separate the two formulas. 4/3 pi r cubed has the volume formula, has the 3's in it, and the surface area formula is 4 pi r squared. There's no 3's in it. And the last slide here is the surface area that says cube. It should have said cylinder. This one should have said sphere. So the surface area of a right cylinder with radius r and height h can be computed by the formula SA equals 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h. So let's just make sense of this formula here. Area of a circle equals pi r squared. And if we look at a cylinder, it has a circle on top and a circle on the bottom. So that's why there is a 2 in front of it. So we get 2 pi r squared for those two circles. But now the 2 pi r h is this part here. We call this the lateral surface of the cylinder, and it goes all the way around the cylinder. The thing is that if I were to take this and cut it and then unravel it, I would start at this edge and it would go all the way around, and if I unraveled it flat, it would give me a rectangle. Well, this rectangle shares the height of the cylinder. So the height of the cylinder is the height of this rectangle. But this part of the rectangle, this top part, is the circumference of the circle. Think about it. This circle, if I were to cut it at one end and pull it as a straight line, that straight line would be this edge of the rectangle. So we're using rectangle area, length times width. where circumference, well, what was circumference? Circumference is 2 pi r, and then we have the height. So the area here is the length, which is circumference, 2 pi r, times the height, which is h, and that's how they get this formula, 2 pi r h. So just repeating, the side of this cylinder called a lateral surface, if we were to make one out of paper and we cut this edge and we unraveled it, we would get this rectangle. And the rectangle's dimensions, well, the height would match the cylinder's height, but the length would be the circumference of this circle here. Now that we've explained the formula, let's insert a blank slide to just work this out. We have a radius of 25 feet and a height of 13. So surface area is 2 pi r squared. Those are the top and bottom circles, plus 2 pi r h. That's the circumference times the height for the lateral area. Surface area is 2 pi. The radius is 25, and we're going to square it, plus 2 pi, the radius of 25 times the height of 13. So 25 squared times 2 gives us 1,250. So we're going to say 1,250 pi plus, here we have 2 times 25 times 13. 2 times 25 times 13 gives us 650, and then there's the pi. So 1,250 plus 650 is 1,900 pi. Feet squared, because we're talking about surface area. And if we multiply the pi into the answer, times pi, gives us 5,969 feet squared. And that's approximate because we dropped this decimal point 0.026. So those are your answers worked out. Watch the video, take notes, pause it, rewind it. If you have questions, send me an email and we can answer it through email or schedule a meeting online where we can do a tutoring session. Right? And then go on, after you've done all of that, go on and complete your assignment for section 6.3.